I'd like to talk about a couple of concepts that I think help people learn better. And one concept is hands separate versus hands together, and the other is the idea of playing half of it. So, on the piano, on the keyboards, you don't try to learn something hands together right away. What you do is learn one hand at a time in a lot of cases. Rather than trying to play both hands together, you look at the left hand part by itself, memorize that, then train the right hand part by itself, memorize that. Learning one thing at a time first has to happen before you put those things together. So if you're struggling with a drum beat, it might partly be because you're trying to play all the limbs at the same time and it's too many for you. So if there are 4 parts, one for each limb, and you're struggling with that, take it down one, see if you can do 3 limbs of it. If you can't, do 2 limbs together. So if there's a drum beat where there's 4 parts, let's say you don't have the foot part yet, and you're struggling with that part too. Well, you can play or you could play and when you feel comfortable with that, maybe you can add the right foot. And then the left foot last. But if that's too much at first, you can just play or so you can play half of a beat like that and see if you can just play 2 limbs together and then add another one so that it's 3. And then finally, the other thing this works with is rolls and fills. If you're struggling with how to think about it, or you just want to think about it a different way for clarity, play half of it. And you can play half 2 different ways. You can change the sound source of one hand, and you can also just take away one hand. So let's just take some triplets. In other words, let's say at higher speeds you're struggling with this a little bit. Well, one way to do this is this is especially useful for me if I'm trying to play a roll between the hands and the feet. Like let's say I want to play those triplets between my foot and my left hand. Because I'm working on maintaining those accents even though the limbs are split up. This is something that you'll hear Buddy Rich do quite a bit. you know, Buddy would do rolls between his hands and his feet, or just leave one hand out, but you would see him playing one of the hands on his leg or something that was going to be quieter. So, you know, let's say 16th or 32nd notes. So, if you're struggling with a beat or fill, see how much you can take away and still have it square up in your head and make sense and line up in your mind. And just see what one half of it sounds like by itself or the other half, and learn those pieces. And then you can play back and forth and transition between them. And it might give you some clarity on things that are complicated for you. And then add one thing at a time. And we'll talk more about that in another video on theme and variations.